this stage, you're probably aware of all the great benefits and efficiencies that Origin can bring to your business and are considering moving to one of our paid plans, our startup, our pro plan, and you're considering the best option to enter all of your data into your Origin account. You have a couple of options. You could enter these manually and just use the opportunity to do a full audit of all of the information that you've currently got on spreadsheets or other systems. The other option is to make use of the data load spreadsheet that we can provide to you. This is a simple spreadsheet with a number of tabs you can see here along the bottom. May seem a bit daunting, so what I've done is I've prepared one and populated it with some data. So we'll just move that one out of the way. You'll see the tabs down at the bottom: landlords, properties, tenants, etc. There are, quite a few of them here, but I just want to concentrate on 4 of them actually: landlords, properties, tenants, and tenancies. These would be the main information that you've currently captured on your existing systems and want to import to Origin. So the way the data is organized, I've probably explained it previously, within Origin is that you've got landlords own properties, and associated with properties you've got tenants and tenancies. So we'll start with the landlords tab. Really, you're just going to copy and paste information either from your existing system or for any spreadsheets that you're using to manage your data sets. So you'll see that there's a number of columns in each tab. If the column, the header here, has got an optional beside it, you don't have to supply it, but you may want to, just to provide a more complete data set. So for each of these tabs, you'll see the first column is an ID column, in this case landlord ID, and this is used purely for the import process. It'll not be used afterwards. So it's really just a means of identifying this entity, in this case this landlord, in some of the other tabs. So you can use any numbering or alphanumeric sequencing that you wish, but in this case I'm just doing a simple 1, 2, 3. Second column, we just indicate whether the landlord is an individual, in which case we give them an I, or a company, we give them a C. You'll see that some of these columns have a comment embedded within them, so just hover over that and I'll give you instructions as to how to populate this particular column. Next column, title, fairly straightforward. If we hover over the comment, it'll tell us which titles are available. Then we just supply first name, surname. For the second row, we've got a company, and then the address of the landlord. You'll see that we can optionally supply phone numbers, mobile numbers, and email addresses. Over on the right, we've got 3 fields that are associated with maintenance activities. Just remember, the maintenance commission, maintenance fee, these are not your standard management fees. In most cases, agents leave these at 0. These are just uplifts that you do to the cost of repairs on properties owned by this landlord. The maintenance threshold, it's like a go-ahead value. It's used for repair estimates. It's when you have to get permission from the landlord to proceed with repairs on his or her properties. So that's the landlords tab. We then move on to the properties tab, and here is where you will see the IDs coming into force. Again, we have to provide a unique ID for each column, and in this case I can see that there is one wrong there, but so each one has to have a unique property ID. Then you've got the landlord ID. So for this property, 33 Perward Close, we're saying that belongs or is owned by landlord 1. And if we go back here, landlord 1 is Mrs. Mariana Feeney. Same with 2, it's owned property 2, that's owned by landlord 2, and we see in this case it's a company, Brixley Property, and then the next 3 are all owned by the same landlord. And if we go back, it's number 3, Mr. Elliot Salt. So again, just supply the address details. We have to supply an opening balance date. This is the date on which you're going to start managing this property within Origin. All transactions prior to this date will be ignored, and no rents will be applied prior to this date. So you'll see that we've selected the 7th of February 2021. And on that date, in most cases, your landlord balance will be zero. That's if you're holding any money on behalf of the landlord. Just last couple of fields here. Management fee, that's just the fee that you're going to charge the landlord for managing this property. In this case, it's 10%. And beside that, a finder's fee. Don't confuse that with a letting fee. It's not. In most cases, it will be zero. It's more like a property sourcing fee or an estate agency fee. Next along is the tenants. Again, you'll see they're all uniquely identified, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in this case, we've just given the name of the tenant. Last tab is the tenancies tab. And this is how we link the properties to the tenants. So again, we'll have unique tenancy ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we're saying here is for this first one, it relates to property ID 1. So if we go back to the properties tab and look at property ID 1, that's 33 Perwood Close. What we're saying here is in that property resides tenant ID 1. And if we go back to the tenants tab, we'll see that that is Mr. Reese Henley. Then we supply the rest of the information. We'll have a tenancy start date, tenancy end date. Now these should be the actual tenancy starts and end dates, even if this predates the opening balance date of the property. As I mentioned previously, no rents will be applied until on or after the opening balance date. So we're saying it's not a periodic tenancy. The rent is £650 in this case per month, and it's all being paid by the tenant. That's what the tenant component is. How much of the overall rent is the tenant responsible for? In the second case, again, we're saying property ID 2. Which relates to 68 Strand on the Green. And in it, we're saying resides tenant ID 2, and that's Mr. Jasper Pemberton. You'll see this one is a weekly tenancy. Again, tenancy start and end date, £170 per week. You'll see in this case the tenant is responsible for £20 of that weekly value, and the other £150 comes from some form of benefit component. You're also seeing here that what we're saying is that on the opening balance date of the 7th of February 2021, the tenant was up to date with their portion of the rent, but we're currently owed £450 from the Housing Benefit Agency. A minus sign indicates an arrears value. We also have a deposit value, and we're indicating that there's no letting fee due from the landlord. Just a couple more examples here. You'll see number 4, which is property ID 4, which is, we'll see here, 1 The Promenade. And again, we'll see that it belongs to tenant ID 4, which is Gail MacArthur. In this case, we're saying tenancy start and end date, but it's a periodic tenancy. That means Origin will continue applying the rents even after the tenancy end date. In the final example, we have specified a tenancy end date, indicated that it's periodic, but we have also specified a periodic end date. That's when the periodic term of the tenancy will come to an end and Origin will cease applying rents. So if you're moving to our startup, our pro plans, ask the Origin support team for a copy of the data load template spreadsheet, and we'll help you get your information into the system as easily and simply as possible. Hope you find that of use. Thanks.